Today's topic is going to be Introduction to Industry and Company Analysis. So, when we talk about industry analysis, right? This means a specific branch of manufacturing or service. Okay, you can use it for understanding a company's business environment, for identifying active equity investment opportunities, and for portfolio performance attribution. This refers to industry analysis, and company analysis is when you are analyzing an individual company. When we are looking at the approaches of industry classification, so first we're going to see the products or services supplied. Second, you're going to look at business cycle sensitivities. I'm just going to elaborate a little bit on the business cycle sensitivities. So I put it in purple. So we have two kinds, mainly two types of business cycle sensitivities. That is the cyclical company, okay, which means growth companies mainly, and exposed to effect of fluctuations in overall economic activity. So you will see that the cyclical company's profits is strongly correlated with the strength of the overall economy. And next we talk of the non-cyclical. That's the defensive, also known as the defensive company. So it's largely independent on the business cycle. Okay. Least affected by fluctuations in the economic activity. You can have example. We talk of staple consumer goods. Basic services and public utilities. And another approach to industry classification, a third approach, we're going to use statistical similarities. When we talk of statistical similarities, we talk of cluster analysis, separation into groups of high correlation and low correlation. So this means that you will have two groups, high correlation, clustered together, and another group, low correlation, clustered together. So here in this example, you have two clusters. Okay, and you will see that the business cycle sensitivity here, this occurs on a continuum basis, so it's not a discrete phenomenon. And then we are going to describe the analysis of an industry using principles of strategic analysis. Strategic analysis of an industry. And so basically this will involve a demand versus time graph. All right. And let's explain the graph here. So you will see that on the first stage here, this is the embryonic stage. Okay. So in the embryonic stage, what you have is a slow graph, as depicted by the graph. You have high prices The company requires significant investment, and the company has a high risk. That's for the embryonic stage. Let me put another color, like a lovely blue. This stage here is the mature phase. No, it's the growth phase. Sorry. This is the growth phase. So the growth phase will have a high quantity demanded. It is characterized by high profit and low prices, and it has less competition. You see that from here to here, that's the shakeout stage. So what happens in the shakeout stage? I have slowing growth, intense competition, and less profit. Okay, it's a decelerating, it's an increasing curve which is at a decreasing pace. From here to here, that's the mature phase. Okay, so in the mature phase you have little or no growth. You have industry consolidation. I'll explain to you what this means in a few minutes. And you have high barriers to entry. Now the rest, okay, I'm just not going to write this, is a decline. Okay, this means negative growth, excess capacity, and high competition. All right, so that's a little a little introduction to the strategic analysis of an industry. What I mean by industry consolidation in the mature phase. So as a company is growing, okay, as it's growing from here to here, you will see upon reaching the mature phase, it will want to stay in the mature phase because it doesn't want to decline and face negative growth, excess capacity, and high competition levels. So what happens usually in the mature phase in order to stay in the mature phase? So this is the stage whereby he's going to be prone to advances in technology and research to stay in the mature phase. All right. This is the introduction to the strategic analysis of the demand versus time curve. Okay. Let's see if I can add other things. Okay. And then we have industry. Classification systems, which I will not cover in detail, but we have a commercial industry classification system, which are the global industry classification standard measured by revenues. Okay, so we have four tiers. Okay, the global industry classification standard measured by revenues, the Russell Global Sectors, which does not provide a separate sector for telecommunication service companies, and the industry bench classification benchmark, which distinguishes between consumer goods and consumer products. Let me just note it down. Global industry classification standard, the Russell Global Tires sectors, and the industry classification benchmark. In terms of industry classification system, so we have the representative sectors. Okay. So first, an example is basic materials and processing. So building material, chemical, paper, forest products, containers and packaging, mineral and mining companies, okay, etc. The second is for consumer discretionary. So it derives a majority of revenue from the sale of consumer-related products and services, for which demand tends to exhibit a relatively high degree of economic sensitivity. So you will see In this category, we have automotive manufacturers. Okay. Yeah, automotive manufacturers are very common in this category. And then we also, a third category is the consumer staples. Business tends to exhibit less economic sensitivity than other companies. Okay, so you have example in this category: supermarket, soap and detergent, and personal care. All these are consumer staples. Fourth category is the energy company. Okay, and when we talk of exploration, production of or refining of natural resources to produce energy. All right, and then telecommunications. Okay, so wireless communication services, telecommunications and utilities. All right, and then 6, financial services. So we find fields like banking, finance, insurance, real estate, asset management, and brokerage services. Healthcare. In this, you will have pharmaceutical and biotech products, medical services, healthcare equipment, medical suppliers and providers of healthcare services. And then industrial and or producer durables. Under this, you will find the commercial services, heavy machinery, equipment manufacture, aerospace and defense, transportation services, commercial services and supplies. 9th is technology. Okay. Computers, software, semiconductors, electronic entertainment, internet services, technology and consulting services. And then you can have utilities. Okay, electric, gas utilities, and very often in some countries where you have the telecommunications sector actually comes in the utilities sector. Okay. These are for classification system. Okay. Let me just make the difference between government classification system and commercial classification. So you will see that a government classification, it does not distinguish between small and large business, for-profit and non-profit, and public and private. No distinction between public and private organizations. Okay. Whereas in a commercial classification, there is a distinguishment between large and small companies. And it includes only for-profit and public companies. So this one here is very important to note. Then you have the construction of a peer group. Okay, so the construction of a peer group. First, you need to know that it is a subjective process. Okay, and when you are constructing a peer group, you are actually grouping companies engaged in similar business activities whose economic valuation are influenced by closely related factors. So this is not a standardized process. It is quite subjective. So the step is that you're going to examine the commercial classification system. You're going to review companies' annual report. For discussion of a competitive environment. Okay, you're going to identify comparable companies. You're going to review industry trade publication. To identify comparable companies. So these two work together, and you're going to confirm each comparable company deriving a significant portion of its revenue and operating profit from a business activity similar to the primary business of the subject company. Okay. We've seen the life cycle stage already. Industry. All right. And yeah, when we talk of company analysis, which comes in the next section, since we've already discussed about industry analysis. So company analysis happens individually. All right. So what I mean by an individual review is you're gonna look at the activity ratios, the liquidity ratios, the solvency ratio, profitability ratio, and look at some financial stats for related consideration. So all these you need to know how to interpret. Okay. So this is gonna be all for today. Thank you for your attention.